and welcome to this second part of my video log about the ruins in ancient Ephesus. I'm John Cassinat, and I'll be your continuing tour guide for the next 20 minutes or so. By way of reminder, in my first video segment, I showed the various sites in this aerial photograph numbered 1 through 18. They included the ruins numbered 2 through 7 on the Lysimachus Acropolis, the ruins numbered 8 through 10 at the Domitian Square, including the ancient temple of Domitian, and finally the ruins numbered 11 through 18 on Quiritus Street. Today we will continue with most of the other ruins in the ancient city that are open to the public. Specifically, we'll be looking and talking about numbers 19 through 24 on this aerial photograph, including number 20, the Celsus, or I've also seen it as Celsius building, which is the most iconic building in ancient Ephesus. Number 19, the gates of Mazeus and Mithridates. 22, the public agora. 21, the marble way. And last but not least, number 23, the 25,000 seat amphitheater. So we'll be looking at all those. Let's begin first of all with the Celsius building. You can see the facade of this building in the background, and off to the right is the marble way that I talked about last time in my video log. In the foreground on the right lower part of this photo, you see the entryway into the public latrine. This was taken from a platform near the Scholastica bathhouse. It's a nice place for a photo op, as you can see in this photograph. I'm going to show you a video taken from this same location where it'll pan around and show you the Celsus building, and then you'll see the heavy use of the public latrine. It's a busy day, lots of tourists needing to use the facilities, I guess. And as we pan around, you'll see the area where the brothel or the love house was located. You can't see it really very well from this vantage point, and as we pan further around to the back, you'll see the Scholastica bath that I talked about also in my last video. It's kind of nice having this platform here that you can get this panoramic view, and we'll see it here as we get ready to head down to the Celsus building. This structure was built between 100 and 110 AD in memory of Tiberius Julius Celsus Pulmanus. He served as the governor or proconsul of Roman Asia between 105 and 107 AD. He paid for the construction of the library with his personal wealth, and he's buried in a sarcophagus beneath it. It's located near the center niche of the building. Originally, the building was constructed as a university or a center of learning, and people kind of stood around and listened to scholars from the steps. It was very boring, so they made it a library. There was interestingly, a double wall system that would protect the books and manuscripts and the papyrus from excess humidity, and air circulated between the walls behind the niches where the books were stored to limit the effects of humidity. It once held about 12,000 different scrolls and parchment rolls, manuscripts, things like that, but Mark Antony, who was of course Twitter-pated with Cleopatra, removed all the books from this library as well as all those located in Pergamum and took them to Alexandria to impress Cleopatra. So that's what happened to all of those. The design is pretty interesting. If you look at it, the front of the building has this exaggerated entrance that kind of enhances its perceived size, and once you get inside the library building, it's only about 2,000 square feet, and I'm sitting there wondering, where's the rest of the building? And that's it. So it's 2 stories separated by a wooden balcony. Now I have an overlay that kind of gives the artist's rendering of what it probably looked like, but the reality of it is this building has been so well restored that it doesn't take much imagination to know what it actually looked like. In all of the niches, you see these bases for statues that are no longer there. They asked me to go ahead and pose so they can recreate some casts for what the sculptures will look like sometime in the future based on my model. Or not. The facade of the building has these Corinthian columns in front of 3 doors, and between the doors in the niches are 4 statues. They represent wisdom, fortune, science, and virtue. The original statues are in the Museum of Ephesus in Vienna. Now, I'm informed that there was a hidden tunnel between the library and the brothel. Now, I can neither confirm nor deny this. I can only tell you it wasn't on the regular tour. Now, the destruction of this building occurred in several different ways. It was damaged by fire in 262 AD by the Goths, which were that Germanic tribe that I mentioned earlier. The Goths basically burned everything, and so you can see in these images some blackness on the stonework, and that probably was from fires. I don't know which specifically, but that was kind of their modus operandi. The building was also destroyed by an earthquake in 270 AD and was never rebuilt until excavations occurred in the ancient city in the modern time. This facade was reconstructed between 1972 and 1978. Reconstruction was from the original pieces, and about 90% of this is original construction, so pretty impressive to say the least. The gates of Mazeus and Mithridates are located immediately adjacent to the Celsus building. These impressive gates were constructed in 2 BC. They contain statues of the imperial family in the attic of the facade. The photo inscription states in Latin, quote, "That gate, built by Mazeus and Mithridates and the people, is dedicated to the Emperor Augustus, the great pontiff, son of Caesar, 12 times consul, 6 times tribune, and to his wife Livia, dedicated also to Marcus Agrippa, father of Lucius, 3 times consul, 6 times tribune, and to Julia, daughter of Augustus," close quote. I just found that it's like straight out of some movie, right? Where they're announcing some emperor or something like that, but there you have it. So Mazeus and Mithridates were 2 slaves of the Emperor Augustus, and this is the same Augustus who lived in the time of Christ and ordered the taxes on the Jews, and they were freed, but the 2 slaves built the gate in devotion to the imperial family. This gate was re-erected between 1982 and 1988, and it leads from the plaza right in front of the Celsus building. You go through them and you'll enter into what is known as the commercial agora, which is what we'll start looking at next. Welcome to the agora in ancient Ephesus. This is an open square where there had a commercial area. It was about 350 feet on each side for a total of about 90,000 square feet. If you add in the shops that we're looking at here in the video, that would make it about 450 on each side for a total of about 200,000 square feet. It was built in about the 3rd century BC, but significantly expanded by the Emperor Augustus, who reigned between 27 BC and 14 AD. During the 1st and 2nd century AD, we had the heyday of the Roman Empire, and this would have been a pretty bustling place. As this video ends, you'll see the gate of Mazeus and Mithridates and the library where we came from. The video showed these double rows of granite columns that covered the porticos with wooden roofs where the shops were located on the perimeter of the agora, except on the north side. This is the area where silversmiths and others like them would be selling their statues of Artemis that revolted and caused a riot when Paul was teaching in this area because he was ruining their business by telling them that Artemis was not a god they should be worshiping. And so this is all recorded in the book of Acts, but this is the place where that probably took place, in these shops that you're seeing here in these particular photographs. Here we're looking at some of the signage on the shops. This looks like it might be a fast food place, and another one shown here. I think this is an auto emission shop. The sign is telling people you can get your horses smogged here in this shop. Anyway, we're going to go over to a department store. These are some leaflets that they were handing out for vases and stuff like that. At any rate, just gives you an idea of the commercial activities that were going on in this area. Here's a nice image of the agora taken from the east side, where you can see the Celsus building over there on the left-hand side, this nice open area. In this photograph, we're looking at the shops that we were talking about. These would have extended up 2 levels up to the Marble Way, which is the place from which I'm taking these photographs. So the wall that you see on the right is a second tier of what would be the back of the shops in the agora. The arch and other monuments built here on the Marble Way were erected to the Emperor Nero. As you go down the way, you'll eventually be able to see the Celsus building here that we're looking at from the Marble Way. One last look before we head off to the big theater located on the north side of the agora. I'm going to refer back to our map that we began with to kind of show the layout of where things were at with the big amphitheater located at the head of what's known as the Arcadian Way. That roadway led down to the silted up harbor. It was called the Arcadian Way because an empress did the repairs to this street after a big earthquake. She leveled it up and the street was actually lit up with lights. This is the fountain house located on the back wall of the theater stage. It was essentially a concession stand for water during theatrical intermissions. It dates back to the Hellenistic era, sometime between the 3rd and 1st centuries BC. The inscriptions on this edifice state that the water was from the Marnus River. The water basin that people could get a drink from has not survived. We're now going to ascend the stairs to enter the seating area for this theater that had a capacity to hold 25,000 people. It was built into the hillside of Mount Pion, and you might recall I talked a little bit about this in the history of Ephesus, how this mountain sits on one side of an earthquake fault and it has this theater on the other side. You can see some images here of the theater itself in the video. In a minute I'm going to stop talking and let you listen to the acoustics that you can hear some people clapping in the background in the theater, and the acoustics are really pretty good for the theatrical performances that would have been done in this edifice. Not bad for a 25,000 seat outdoor auditorium without any kind of roof that's built into this hillside. This auditorium is believed to be the largest in the ancient world. It was 3 stories and each story was 54 feet. It took 70 years to complete this. Paul preached in this theater, but probably at the time he did so, it would not have been complete. It was used initially for dramas and things of this nature, but during the Roman times, gladiatorial combats were also held on its stage. I do have an artist's conception of what the theater probably looked like. So here we have it in its current condition, and then we put an overlay to see what the stage and the buildings behind the stage would look like, and then we'll go back to the original view looking down the boulevard down to what would have been the harbor in the good old days before things got silted up, looking toward the Aegean. The final landmark on our whirlwind tour is the gymnasium that's located to the north and east of the theater beyond the Arcadian Way that you see in the foreground in this photograph. Beyond that, you also see what I'm referring to as a boneyard of stones that have been salvaged that they will use in the reconstruction of the theater and other buildings. You can still see the crane that sits here in the site next to the theater, and they basically bring the stones over and put them into place. The gymnasium was built around 125 AD and has dimensions of more than 108,000 square feet. Anciently, it was kind of this U-shaped recreation area with bathing rooms on the north. It also had 4 rows of stepped stairs that served as bleachers for the sporting events. We're now getting ready to leave the ancient city, and on our way out I noticed a group of sarcophagi that were sitting on the edge of the roadway that we were walking on. And I mentioned to the tour guide it's another one of those souvenir shops that they want you to buy everything as you leave the place. He didn't get the joke. That concludes our tour of the ancient city of Ephesus. Thanks for watching, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. I hope you'll join me in the future for more video logs of my recent travels, including all 7 cities from the book of Revelation. My next vlog will focus on the ancient city of Ephesus as a center of Christianity in the 1st century A.D., the place where the apostles John and Paul proselyted in the cause of Jesus Christ. I'll leave you now with some additional images and videos from the ancient city that you should now recognize and can appreciate now that you've been on the tour. So just sit back and enjoy the remaining sights and sounds, and I'll see you next time.